All right, all right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. Um, Giving the Creator thanks for another day of life, eh? There is no shortage of outrage. Every other moment, first it's Kanye, it was Nick Cannon, and now we are here. We're sensing a trend. But I kind of wanted to talk about it. I seen it in passing. Let me make sure that I can be heard. I saw this in passing and then it just kept going on. I saw the Kanye thing, but like I said, a lot of stuff was going on. So, and I'm like, again, is this a trend or is it a message or what's going on and what's the noise about? Usually when there is a lot of noise, you know what I mean? Um, Let me make sure everything is live. Usually, when there's a lot of noise and controversy, then confusion is in the mix. And if confusion is in the mix, you don't get to, as an observer, necessarily get down to the meat and potatoes. You understand? We get distracted by this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, and then we forget what the outrage was about. And because one person may be offended, we essentially embody their offense. We don't even know why they offended, and then people start teaming up whose side they on, and this person is a sellout. And I'm like, what is going on? I remember this film when it was being made many, many years ago, and I don't even remember watching the fullness of it. So I'm literally in the process of going back and looking over the fullness of it. But for the sake of time, I'm going to just give my thoughts as it relates to some of the information that's being put out right now and where they seem to be going with it. So let me go ahead and release my screen here because there's a number of articles that make you go, hmm. The same thing happened Kanye, some stuff, although I did see that Drinks Champs conversation and he was going in. But nonetheless, it's things that make you go, hmm, I wonder, right? So this article, and usually when an article comes out, it's just a number of pundits saying the same thing. People in the news right room, they have like a repeat, what do you call it, catchphrase that they want to keep saying, and they keep saying it, and they keep saying it, and they keep saying it. Now, the person who owns the ability to define things determines reality to a certain degree, right? Because if you have the handle over the Webster's dictionary, if you can change DSM-4, if you are the ones who are back there saying this is what something is and this is what something isn't, that is how you wield power over the masses, right? So before we start, yeah, what's going on, sis? I wanted to go into anti-Semitic because sometimes we are arguing a mute point, right? Because we are redefining what the person has already defined, and that's what causes the problem, especially when they're the ones who get the permission or has given themselves permission to define, right? It says anti-Semitic, hostile to or prejudiced against Jewish people. Now, many people will look at this and be like, this is loaded in and of itself. But this is the textbook definition. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I think the definition was updated in recent time. I have to double check on that. Right. So basically, anti Semitism is said to be hostility and prejudice towards discrimination or discrimination against Jews. A person who holds such position is called an anti-Semite. But all of these words within these words need to be defined, right? Because if they are not necessarily black and white. What is hostility? If someone says something towards someone that could potentially be true, if the person feels that that's hostility, does that mean it's hostility? Prejudice, discrimination, right? If so, he's being at this point accused of sharing a film that supposedly is supposed to be or reportedly supposed to be anti-Semitic. So then one would have to say, pause. Whoever is whoever was offended initially, they would have had to have watched the video. And if someone is being accused for something, you're usually innocent till proven guilty. So unless this film, and I'm not a lawyer for the film, I'm just thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, unless the film has already been proven, quote, anti-Semitic per the definition, that means the people who are writing these things should have outtakes. So that's what I'm gonna kind of look for today with you. And let me know if you've seen it as well. You should have specific parts of the film that is going to say, you know what, this part right here is a blaring contradiction. This part right here is a lie. You know what I mean? You have to pull out parts of the film. And secondly, that's the first thing. The second thing is, which would be the first thing for Kyrie Irving, is at what point do you get to share authentically your thoughts or what you're learning as you grow? Or do you have to wholeheartedly be accountable for everything that's in it? Because if that be the case, there are many things that are being shared that are compromising to people. There are many things that are being shared on social media through artistry, through quote unquote musicians, and all of these things that have brought certain uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for here? People to their own demise, let's say. And do they get kicked off, or they, get fired from their job? Do they get kicked out because they shared those things, right? If you have rappers like Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, listen to the name alone, and all of these people sharing things, at what level? Is it only if you share something about a certain people? And that's what some people are saying. Is it only when you share something about certain people? I think Kanye was trying to make that point, although he was on the Drinks Jam show, and they made what's his name, Noriega, do the same thing in this apology tour that they're going on. But he was saying the same thing, that I can say anything defamatory I want against melanated people, and he proceeded to do so, and no one stopped him. But the minute he said something against a certain, so that means that there's only a certain part of the population is protected. That's what it's showing us. And I think that's what Kanye was trying to illustrate. But this is not about Kanye right now, so let's continue. Let us continue, shall we? So Kyrie Irving promotes anti-Semitic film on Twitter. Irving tweeted link to movie on Thursday night. So I'm not sure whether or not he tweeted it with, hey, I agree with this part and this part, because he tweeted a link to a movie, a documentary, no less, where people are supposed to be able to watch and think for themselves, and don't, do the LeVar Burton reading Rainbow. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not sure how sharing a link makes you anti-Semitic, right? But he continues to do the questionable. On Friday night, the Brooklyn Guard tweeted an Amazon Prime link to a 2018 Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America. The film uncovers the truth, and they put quotes. So that's why sometimes people would be like, well, Muna, I like to say quote because that's the language and terminology, so-called, purportedly. That's the language oftentimes when somebody wants to question you or gaslight you or make it as though what you're saying is not founded in reality or truth. They'll say things like that. So when I say things like that, then you know where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? So they put it in quotes, which is like low-key shade, uncovers the true identity of the children of Israel, end quote, and unearths, quote, what Islam, Judaism, and Christianity has covered up for centuries in regards to the true biblical identity of the so-called Negro in the movie, packed with tons of research, end quote. So that was a long quote. And what I find interesting is that the thought that melanated people, when they begin to read, which in many cases you weren't supposed to be doing, and when you're trying to put it together, you just don't understand. You know what I'm saying? So you have no wherewithal to be making no documentary and making any claims and so-called packing it with tons of research, right? The book also notes that, quote, since the European and Arab slave traders stepped foot into Africa, Blacks have been told lies about their heritage. Now, again, what happened to the days of Malcolm X and you know, uh, Martin Luther King? What happened to the debate? What happened to the days of somebody was saying something that you don't necessarily agree, and they was in there smoking their pipes with their little tweed shirts on and or suits on, and having a discussion, so-called, a supposed civilized discussion? Why do we jump straight to the smear campaign? If you don't agree with what has been in this documentary, and it's been up in 2018, bro, we in 2022, bring on the producer of the documentary and have a discussion with him. Who's calling him to task about, the information? You can't just call out. You can, but is it just to just say, oh, this is such and such, without proving it? Like, who has the burden of proof to prove that this is anti-Semitic, right? If that's the question that's on the table. A next spokesman told the New York Post the Brooklyn Nets strongly condemn and have no tolerance for the promotion of any form of hate speech. I don't know if Did he share the link and tell somebody to do something, or did he just share the link? Because I haven't seen the tweet. We believe that in these situations, our first action must be open, honest dialogue. How so when the other party is not called to the table? We thank those, including the ADL, who have been supportive during this. How is it open and honest when you're forcing someone to respond in the way that you want them to respond, or else they're going to face, backlash, which is what they're experiencing right now. According to Rolling Stones, the film is based on 2015 book of the same name, and several passages of the book have been proven false. Show us the passages. See this right here. If this was a report that you turned into the teacher and you just reference the reference, which is basically a tertiary source, because this is Fox News, right? Fox News is quoting Rolling Stones, and Rolling Stones, they give us the link, and then we're supposed to believe that what has been proven false. Then Fox News, you got space. You should just tell us what part of this conversation is false. Irving sent the tweet hours before the next overtime loss to the Dallas Mavericks at Barclays Center. And that's the end of it. So let's jump on over to the Rolling Stones, because we following the yellow brick road here to see why everybody's so up in arms and why everybody is offended, right? I want to know. I want to know just as much as anybody else. I've been here minding my business, spraying my salt spray and stuff, trying to figure out what's the next move. And I'm like, what is all of this hubbub about? So let's go ahead and jump over here to what's going on, everybody. Welcome to the conversation. I'm going to put the link in a minute, but we're going to jump over here to the Rolling Stones article. So let me drop this. Where's this here? Let me drop this screen and pick up the stop sharing. Pick up the Rolling Stones article. Hold on, peeps. This is the link, but I'm not ready to. I'm gonna just put it here. But let me just go through this stuff first, and then I'll. So let's see what the Rolling Stones article is saying, shall we? And again, I'm one that likes to pay attention to language and verbiage, right? So listen again. People can build you up and they can break you down, right, with their words. So Kyrie Irving boasts anti-Semitic movie peddling. Listen to the headline. If somebody just shared something, they shared something. Boasts anti-Semitic movie peddling. Peddling is like thinking of carpetbaggers. You know what I'm saying? Some unscrupulous salesman who hasn't bathed in days is out here with unbrushed hair peddling his wares. Like, what type of terminology is this? Is it me, y'all? Do I have an overactive imagination? The video is based on a venomous, listen to the language again, because we paint with our words, right? In this case, let me go back over here and make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. All right, let's go. Okay, so wait, hold on. Yeah, here we are. So they say the headline is everything for me. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to laugh, but let's go with the headline. Yo, John Blistein. And listen to John Blistein. This is what I'm saying. When we're paying attention to who wrote it, why did they write it? Because when people are writing, just because it's Rolling Stone doesn't mean it's factual. In the same way they're saying, just because he wrote the book doesn't mean it's factual, right? Just because it's Rolling Stone doesn't mean it's factual. Just off the top alone, John Blistein feels to me like he has a reason to be in his feelings and to use a certain terminology, right? The video is based on a venomously anti-Semitic book, which asserts that, quote, many famous high-ranking Jews, end quote, have, quote, admitted, end quote, to, quote, worshiping Satan or Lucifer, end quotes. That's a lot of quotes in the subtitle, but we'll continue, right? So somebody is like not feeling what's going on here. So hopefully they'll give us some references as we go along. Hours before, heck no, I'm not subscribed. Come on, Rolling Stone article. Well, we ain't gonna read the Rolling Stone article today because I'm not logging in. Hours before Brooklyn Nets loss on Thursday, noted, quote, free thinker. Why they got it? Is he a free thinker or is he not? Because if he's noted, then who's noting it? And so if they noted it, then why are you quoting it? Is he a free thinker or is he not? And basketball player Kyrie Irving took to Twitter to boost a movie and book Hebrews to Negroes stuffed with anti-Semitic tropes. right? So when somebody goes on their platform, I think what one of the issues is that platforms that have a big reach are threatening to those who want to keep a certain thought process and ideology afloat. You know what I mean? And so, really, if he had two followers, it may not have been a problem, but because he has the public eye, right, it's a problem. So, but the way they said he posted it. I don't know how many people saw that tweet, but the fact that they're talking about it, way more people are seeing it. You know what I mean? Like if anybody boosted it, it's them now because now you're making the people want to go see it. And so, speaking of people wanting to go see it, let me see if I get another thing because I'm not logging into no Rolling Stone. Let's see here. So let's just jump on over to what caused the hubbub, shall we? So I saw a few of the interviews, and he's like, "Yo, bruh, I didn't write it, fam. I didn't write it. Um, you know what I mean? I didn't shoot the documentary. I wasn't featured in the documentary. Why are you coming for me? Right? Let me see. This is a NY post. Let's see. Let's see. All right, let's jump over to so all of this is controversy over something. So let's go ahead and take a look at the thing that's causing the controversy. We're not going. Hey, my bad. I accidentally xed out this joint here. I see someone in the chat. I'm coming in a second. I accidentally xed out I accidentally X'd out my thing right here. Let me see what the DMT has to say, and then I'm gonna go over to the Hebrew to Negroes. All I ask is that when we come to the platform, we keep it clean and professional, and then we can go from there. So, brother, I'm gonna add you, and then I'm gonna go over to the Amazon.
Okay, I appreciate that. Peace, sis. Peace. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, all right. Yeah, I was just gonna hit on something that you kind of tapped in on it at the end when you were kind of going into like who really kind of pushed the video. Because it's crazy. The video, I remember when the dude made it. I pretty much like I'm in the middle of watching it now. I think I'm on like chapter 6, but I pretty much seen everything except for the DVD, like everything going into the making of it and all of that.
Right,
And it dropped in 2018, and it's
right,
like now it's a number one. You know what I'm saying? It's a number one seller. And then I think some of the issues that we look at too, I have a big problem with capitalism, and like that was like it was a major show of power. Like in general, if you kind of looked at where the people were sitting at, like harassing him, these people bought front row tickets to a game in New York. That's not cheap.
right,
You know what I mean? They was able to buy tickets to that front row and then harass him the whole game. Like that's type of like at some point we gotta kind of see the fight in a different way. And then I think the worst part too, we talking about like we already in a war with our image globally in general. And so like part of what I do with like my media, I try to produce black propaganda. So for me, if you want, you know, a lot of times we talk about the truth. I don't think black people right now can afford the truth. I think we kind of, especially I think Fox News, if you want to call that the truth, or CNN, they gonna blast enough of us, you know, enough of the truth about what we go through in our lives and how we treat each other and all of that. I think we at a point now where we need like stuff that fight against that type of image that go around the globe. And it's like it's funny the very people who benefit off of a negative image being portrayed to people, you know, on the planet. Those same people are complaining about, you know, something that's the and righteously the part of the problem is that it is debatable, but they want to keep it where it's not debatable. They want it to where it's like, well, everybody knows we're the
right.
Jews. You know, and they kind of want to kind of brush it off with that. And I think, you know, I don't necessarily agree with, you know, with black people being Jews, but I think if black people make a decision on it, then that's just what we are. And I don't agree with. I think though, if anybody gonna have claim, I think it would be black people, and especially when you look at the damage that you done. Part of, if you talking about we have a identity problem, you're the reason for our identity problem. Especially we talk about the Jewish people who made money off of the slave trade in general. But I digress with that.
No, thank you for that, because I think that opens up the conversation, and especially what I'm talking about is that the conversation is being shut down from the gate, just like what you're saying, right? The allowance for, say, this is what you're saying, right, in a respectable way, not in a propagandist kind of, oh my goodness, just let's just call the person names so that everybody would demonize the person. Why is this person making noise? Why are all of these people making noise? Let us have a discussion. But like you said, I think if this discussion is shut down, then it stops the people from exploring. And you got to make your own choice. How is it that other people are making choices for you, right? And historically, they have not necessarily had your best interest at heart. I think this is what Nick Cannon experienced, that, and partially because some of these celebrities, um, uh, Amar Stoudemire, Nick Cannon, Kanye, what's the next one? Kendrick Lamar. They're only getting to meet bits and pieces of this, and because they are kind of in this celebrity space as well as learning or waking up, they are easily spooked to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Because it's like you could pop up just a little bit, and if you do
Right.
it too much, I'm gonna make an example of you. And that's what we've seen over and over again. I see Amina's in the spot. Welcome to the conversation, sis.
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Awesome, I'm good. I hope you guys are well. Um, I just wanted to say the brother touched on something that has been sitting in the back of my mind since all of this started, and that is image. At this point, everybody on a globe probably is looking at what is happening with Kyrie and everything. They're looking at what he said. They're looking at his tweets. They're listening to to what's being said to him. Everybody's looking at that video and the book, and they're looking at us. They're looking at us Israelites. They're looking at us. We need to take that into consideration and make sure that we're not out there behaving in a manner that would have them pointing their fingers at us like, oh, see, and these are the people that's saying that they're truly Israelites. You know what I'm saying? We At this time, yeah, there's a lot of discussions that need to be had, but we also need to keep in mind that we're being watched heavily at this point. I mean, everybody wants to know who he's talking about. He is. And we're the examples, the daily examples, the
You know,
ones that they see at the market.
that has been my
That's
contention for many years. Thank you for sharing that. That has been my contention for many years, that you cannot continue to say, hey, come inside, look at me, look at me, look at me. And you didn't clean your house and you're not ready for
right,
guests. You know what I mean? That doesn't make
right.
any sense. So, speaking of which, now that we see that the Rolling Stone article and other articles are saying that he boasted it, in reality, they're boasted. They don't know how, you know how curiosity works. You start doing something, people are gonna want to know, well, what are you talking about? So let's go quickly over to the Amazon where they boosted it. And like the brother said, what's going on, Ashanti? Like the brother said, I'm a little hold on, the rain came down. I had to close the door. Like the brother said, this has been on here since 2018. Okay. And it has had this rating since 2018. So let me just quick over to what's this? It's by Ron Dalton, and he made a press release, and we're going to read it in a second, because oftentimes, again, without talking to people, without exploring, people are easily demonized, right? So I want to look at, I want to look
I,
at what's this here? The 1-star ratings, because there's people who agree wholeheartedly, people who disagree, but I tend to like to start at the 1-star and make my way over. Okay. So let's see.
I gotta go, you guys. So have
Go
a
ahead,
good
sis.
night, and I'll talk to you guys later. Show off.
All right, then. Thank you for stopping by. If you're on the other side, if you're on the Facebook side, you have to come to YouTube side uh, if you would like to comment. So, what was I gonna say? What I was gonna say here. So on Amazon, somebody just read it. We're gonna see how many people popped over here based on the hubbub. You know what I mean? All the ruckus. So somebody named PS gave it a 1 star. They say save your money. In Hebrews to Negro, Wake Up Black America, Ron Danto argues that though Christianity, Islam, and Judaism have worked to conceal the true identity of the children of Israel, God is waking up people all over the world, specifically Black Americans, to the fact that they are the real lost children of Israel, while the Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Israeli Jews in Israel are just religious converts with no biblical or blood connection to the 12 tribes of Israel. This argument fails for several reasons, a few which will be discussed below. So this is somebody who's willing to have a discussion or a one-way discussion. I don't know. So they at least are able to articulate that, listen, I don't agree with your premise. I'm not saying that he's not going to later on, I don't know, we reading it as we go, jump out and call him an anti-Semitic, but this is how you engage somebody's argument. You know what I mean? You say, this is what you're asserting and I don't agree. And here's my supporting evidence as to why I don't agree. Right? As opposed to just jumping out here making smear campaigns. But let's continue. Before evaluating the main argument, however, I want to share some brief comments on the price. See, you need to focus. I gave you a point for outlining, but now you mad about the price. Comments on the presentation, price, etc. of the documentary. Overall, the presentation is poor. It was way too long. But if it was really short and the person didn't have any supporting evidence, you'll be mad about that. But let's continue. Ultimately, it comes off as nothing more than an extravagant PowerPoint. I'm sorry if I laugh. People are funny. Extravagant PowerPoint presentation with annoying music over it, as well as a voice narration. It is not worth renting or buying. So pause. You see how the person put their personal assessment in here to kind of throw you off from what the topic is. That's not the topic. The topic is, do you agree with what the person is asserting in the film? Concerning the overall claim the creator is making, it is asinine, to say the least. And I say this as an African American who has for years tried to understand why Black Americans are falling for this nonsense. So you already told us that you have a bias on this, right? That they are Israelites. You already tell us where you're coming from. So we know that this is not an objective. You're not objecting objectively. First, the methodology which he uses to help reach this conclusion is flawed. He primarily relies on the Bible history, similarity in language and culture, DNA, and oral traditions. What? Isn't that what people who are concluding that they are such and such relying on? Yo, wait a minute now. That's a lot of flawed stuff. The biblical history, language, culture, and DNA and oral traditions. Many cultures are built on for less. Anywho, there, however, is not one Bible scholar, linguist, geneticist, historian, archaeologist, or etc. featured in the documentary to verify his interpretation of the data he uses to reach his conclusion. This is a run-on sentence, bruh. And whether or not his conclusions are justified by the data. We're just supposed to blindly trust that he has interpreted the data he used correctly and come to the right conclusions? Sir, no, you're supposed to take the information and go do your own research. Hello, go do your own research. You don't buy. That's why he gave you all the information. Go do your own research. Anyway, in addition, he primarily relies on the Bible to make his case. You already said that, bruh. He, however, has to presuppose that the Bible is historically reliable. So we also see that they're questioning the sources that he's using. I am a Christian. Oh, no, I could not have told, sir. So I do accept that the Bible is historically reliable. Father, help me. The contradictions in this. What's wrong with PS? However, this film is primarily addressed to Black Americans, many who do not believe in the Bible. What are you using to base that on? Many Black Americans do not believe in the Bible. What census, what Pew research study did you, where'd you get this from? He fails to give any reason as to why they should believe it is trustworthy before appealing to it in order to make his case. I was with you before I wasn't, because what are you talking about? Also, two of the main passages he appeals to make his case don't actually support his claim. He cites Deuteronomy 28:68, for instance, but this could not possibly be in reference to the transatlantic slave trade. First, it states God would send Israel back into Egypt by way of ships. According to the Bible, they went to the literal Egypt the first time. But like the rest of the black Hebrew Israelites, Dalton has to interpret Egypt as a metaphor in order to make his curse. I think somebody's church pastor sent PS over here, because this is way too long to be an Amazon review. Hold on, I need a breather. Hold on. Let me see. I see the brothers back in the spot. Do you have something to share before I continue? I need to take a swig of water or something. Brother DMT is back. Okay, he's on mute. Let me continue then. Let me go back to Amazon here. Where was I? I'm just trying to give fair voice to those who are objecting before I read this press release. Let me see here. Even if you accept his erroneous view that Egypt is being used as a metaphor, the rest of the verse could not possibly refer to those during the transatlantic slave trade, because it states that they will offer themselves as male and female slaves, but no one will buy them. That literally did not happen. Our ancestors did not offer themselves as slaves and were already valued by as much as $1,000 when they landed in the New World. Where's your supportive evidence, sir? Of course, black female slaves had a higher value than men, since they could give birth to more slaves. Again, as somebody who studied this time of enslavement, brother, I'm going to need sources. The same way, this is what I'm saying. The person is coming to knock down somebody else's argument who gave references, and then he's not giving any references to what he just said. But let's continue. Another passage which he appeals to is supposed to show that the Israelites will lose their identity in Jeremiah 17:4. Which actually states that he's arguing from a biblical basis. And based on what I've seen thus far, there was a lot of other references given in there. And the only thing that this person so far is contesting are the biblical references. What about the cultural references? Why are you choosing to attack the biblical references? That's a question I have. You're looking to go through the weakest point in your mind, maybe, states that Israel will lose its heritage. When Dalston posted the passage in the documentary, he, however, used the words identity/heritage. This is a total misrepresentation of the verse. The Hebrew word here is nahalat, which means property or land given by a person to a successive generation. When the passage is read in context, it's about Israel losing their land as God was getting ready to send them into exile in Babylon. It is not all about them losing their identity. Jeremiah prophesied before the Babylonian exile. Somebody had to ask the grandfather, help me, the man write a thesis paper. I'm outside, I'm want some water. And them losing their land was one of the things that, oh, great, a child just came. Hold on. Wait, I was going to go send them for some water for me. Where am I now? Did I do this without any water in sight? Jeremiah prophesied before the Babylonian exile, and them losing their land was one of the things that happened as a result of their disobedience. They did not lose their identity as other prophets like Daniel wrote during the Babylonian exile, and afterwards did not forget who they were. Not to mention, many of them were already back in Israel by the time Jesus showed up. Sir, Father, help me. The man have 3 more healthy paragraphs. Hold on. Concerning this claim, let me behave myself and focus here. Let me see if he continues, if he has any other thing to dispute here, because he needed to make this a conversation. Concerning his claim that none of the white-looking Jews are Israelites, how does he know this? I'm sorry. This person is big mad. Has he
That's
done?
sad.
Go ahead, brother. I need a break for a second. Let me know your thoughts on this so far.
Yeah, I mean, part of my issue with it is when we look at tribes, and like usually, I kind of take the opposite. I take usually the negative side when we having debates with Israelites, but for like, it's them who came to the Limba tribe and told the Limba people that, hey,
Right.
you practice the same things from this book that we're holding. They came to them and said that. Then they went to the Igbo people and told them the same thing. So
That's
it's like, and then even if we go to even Beta Israel, those practices existed before those people who
Yeah.
are calling themselves Jewish, before they even, were even thought of. not only that, you can't show anything historically with them practicing any of that stuff. You can't show them at all. And that's why I be saying, like, they need, 1 minute they need these Africans in order
Right,
to validate
right,
themselves in the history.
right,
But now when it's inconvenient,
right.
black people aren't Jews. So
This
what
is
are you doing with the Limba and the Igbo there?
what are you doing over there? And that's a good question. And this is where the games come in. I remember many years ago, and there was a documentary that came out. It was by a Jewish man who went to the he went to the Lemba. What was the name of the documentary again? You guys remind me of the name of this documentary. Okay. And like you said, the man wanted to, it was the man's name is Jeff Lieberman. Hold on, let me get the documentary. He wanted to validate the existence of these people here and who they are. And when I think it went to a film festival, if I'm not mistaken. And nobody was like, no, that's not true. Hold on, Jeff Lieberman. I'm gonna tell you the name of the documentary right now, because if I don't remember, it's gonna bother me. So somebody's playing games. Somebody is playing games. He also did a documentary on Nina Simone, but that's not the one. That Reemerging the Jews of Nigeria. That's the name of the documentary. So I don't know if you guys have seen that, but they were there and he's like, oh yeah, this is who you are. Right. When I went over to Ethiopia, it was the same thing. There was a lot of European Jews going to the Beta Yisrael, going to Beta Abraham, telling them this is who you are, ba ba ba, and saying this is correct. But now when the people over here say so, it becomes this big anti-Semitic claim, which is questionable. This needs to be had in a conversation.
And we know Igbo came over here because even when you look at, and I stay like, I'm probably like maybe 20 minutes from Africa Town. They wrote it on the church, that the first church that they built.
Right.
So we know Hassa came here. We know Yoruba was here. Nupe. We can see the tribes that was here.
And part of the issue, I think, and this guy says he's melanated. Part of the issue is, like you're saying, the way he recapped what happened during slavery is part of the issue, and the way the story is being told to me is also part of the issue. There is not a monolith of so-called black people that came. There were different tribes which represented differently. They didn't say, oh, we are all one, we came from the continent, right? And so what happens is when you throw a blanket out there and say, hey, black people from the transatlantic slave trade, you're Hebrew Israelites, a lot of people are not going to identify with it, and they're going to fight it because possibly they're not. Even if they came across the waters, like some came here, but not everybody who came here was of the same stock. And I don't think that conversation is forwarded enough, because if it is, then when someone is fighting to that degree, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to argue with them. Maybe they're not. Go ahead.
Well, I would say though, like, I think when we having a discussion, I think even if we want to include the Aboriginals in the discussion, I think part of the problem is everybody usually takes an extreme, and it's like, you can't, because even when you talk about like the Aboriginals, they brought more men over here, and they made it the band with the native women that was here.
Correct.
Most of the natives was shared a plantation with us, so you really can't, you know what I mean? And then you like you talk about, like you said, the different tribes. So we're already an amalgamation of tribes, and then we get mixed in with the native women here. So you talking about like what makes you black it's a lot of things.
There's some books that I was doing the studies of slavery. I just had to take a break because it's consuming. But there's some stuff that one of the European quote explorers in that went to Jamaica noted that on Sunday you would see the different tribes, and I can get it because I like to give references, but you can see the different tribes partitioned off, observing the things that they did that they had their time to do on their rest day. So even during that influx of people coming from different spaces and different tribes, they would segregate themselves when the time allotted. So they were pushed together because of the institution of slavery. But then there were times when they the Ashanti would do what they would do, and the Fulani would do what they would do, and the Igbo would do what they would do. And if you look at the logs, and when I was doing the family research, I came across the logs, And when you see the logs, they'll tell you exactly who it is and where they came from. And they came in with their different cultures, their different thought processes, their different ideologies, their different deities, right? And so I don't think it moves the conversation forward if we, like you're saying, if we continue to just broad brush everything and not allow for these nuances, because they do exist, right? I see Ashanti's in the spot. Welcome, sis. Welcome to the conversation.
Shalom, Sister Amuna. Shalom to everyone else on the panel. I didn't catch everyone's name. I'm on my phone, so I can't really see everything clearly in front of me.
Right, right.
But I just wanted to come in and say a few things. I don't have much time, but I just wanted to come in and say a few things to add to what the brother was saying and to add to the conversation some of the points that you brought out, if that's okay. Sis.
Go ahead. Go
All right.
ahead.
So, and I was just talking to one of my mores today, and talking about the congregation he's a part of that I visited and he teaches at. It's a Jewish congregation, however, it's also Messianic Jewish, and they don't have any problem with anybody coming in, as far as being a part of the culture, being a part of their community. As far as us descendants of slaves over here in America, I don't think the issue with us saying we are the people is the vast amount of the problem. And I'll get to Ron Dalton Jr.'s book in a hot second. But what's going on is when us descendants of slaves who were brought over here in the transatlantic and the Arabs of slave trade from a majority west coast of Africa, when we say we are the originals, when we use verbiage such as we are the originals, when we say we're the true, when we say we are the real, when we say we are the genuine, words like that trigger, and they trigger negatively, and it implies that other people are fake and false. When somebody converts over to the ways of the Most High and takes on the written Torah, takes on the practices, loves the people, takes on keeping Sabbath, feast days, kosher, stuff like that. And this Elohim, this deity is supposed to be the most loving deity ever. It is a disservice to that Elohim and to his representatives to say that we don't want the rest of humanity to convert their behavior over into what's exhibited by saying, hey, I worship the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, right? So when we use words again, such as we're the true, we're the genuine, we're the originals, that's implying that everyone else is fake and false, and that we can be the only ones who are this faith because of our skin color. What we are going to have to do is learn the definition of anti-Semitism that matters here in America, and actually see that we can leverage that definition and use it for ourselves. We can call ourselves what we would like. And if somebody tries to say, hey, you're not this, we can say a counteract, which is this. The counteract would be, I am this person. I could say I am a Black Jew because I am a descendant of slaves here in America who have been traced back to this area here. And it is known in this area that these certain tribes existed. And these tribes have their archaeological, their oral, their genealogical records. They also have documentation of their practices. They can show that they do bat and bar mitzvah. They can show that they do mikvah. They can show that they've been keeping Sabbath, feast days, and keeping kosher. So those are the things I believe that we could put on the table and start using better verbiage to make our claim. We don't need to say what somebody else is not to solidify and validate who we are. We could just say who we are and exist and be in that. We could say who we are without saying who someone else is not, and we can say who we are without implying someone else is not this. And we can't lay claim to be the only ones who can be this, because all humanity can come back to its creator, Yod Hey Wah. So that's all I wanted to say. I know I possibly took a lot of time, but thank you for allowing me to say that, Sister
Do
Amora.
do you have to go right now?
No, I don't have to go right now. However, I'll give about 20 minutes. Is that cool?
Yeah, I just wanted like kind of just to touch on because
Oh,
first I'll say that I agree. I think that that is an issue that they feel is that you saying well one that they aren't. But then I think too also to counteract that is what they don't go into is that the very Talmud that they hold to, they say that Goyim can't keep the Torah. So and if you're saying that Goyim can't keep the Torah, you might as well be saying that they're not that they ain't Israelites. So even if you converting Goyim to being a Jew, because they already said you're wasting your time, you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't keep the Torah. If you it's really only I think they said it really is only like damnation to a goyim or something like that. So it's like, are they willing to adjust that? Because it's virtually saying the same thing. One is saying that they can't keep it, wasn't the Torah wasn't given to them, they can't keep it. The other one is saying that the same thing, that the goyim or the Gentiles can't keep the Torah, and it wasn't for them.
I can respond to
So
that.
I think
What's your name,
on
brother?
surface,
What's your name, brother?
oh, I'm sorry, out the blue.
Out,
You
out the
investing out the
blue.
blue.
This
Yeah.
Shanti, Shine.
Oh, what's going on? Peace. Shalom,
Peace,
sis.
peace, peace. Shalom. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue, and I'll answer. To have a dialogue with you. Go ahead.
So yeah, I think, and that was like, I feel bad because I think Kyrie kind of put in a predicament. He don't really have the information that kind of, you know what I mean, to defend himself. But I think in general, we look at how they practice Judaism. In a lot of ways, it's almost the same thing. They even them using the curse of Canaan as a part of the slave, the Atlantic slave trade. I thought that was, that's a major issue. So to me, it's a lot of things that they got, because we got to remember they practices, they really following the Talmud.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They believe that the Bible is for the Goyim. So they really, you know what I mean, using the Talmud. And when you look at how they write about it in the Talmud, it's like, that's an underlying how they truly feel about us in general. You know what I mean? It's like, is that going to be addressed?
Yeah.
I think that's allowed to be hidden in the conversation.
I would like to address that if I could, Sister Amona. So out the blue, good that you bring that up, my bro. Like when you ask 5 different Jews the same question, you get 5 different answers. The Jewish community, including Black Jews, purple Jews, what they possibly have not done the best job in defining what it means to be Jew and what it means to be Jewish. There's like 2 or 3 definitions all wrapped into that one of what it means to be Jew. And remember, during the 1st century CE, especially during the Hasmonean period, you have the Maccabean revolt. You start to have different factions or sects, SECTS, of Jews. You get the Pharisees, you get the Sadducees, you get the Zealots, you get the Essenes. Later on, you get the Nazarenes. Later on, you get the Ebionites. Those are all sect of Jews, right? And each sect of Jew gets to determine what specific practices and customs and traditions they legislate, right? They get to choose what subcategories make them Jewish besides the main foundation of having kept the Torah and having kept their genealogical records, right? So what's going on is in the Talmud you get various because I've done, I've brought information out on this stuff before from the Talmud and from the Tosefta. The Tosefta is the supplementary document to the Talmud. You get various different rabbis and sages giving their various opinions, right? And one rabbi or one sage might not agree with the other. So there are definite certain there are definite certain Jews that say, hey, we don't teach Gentiles. Then there are other Jews that say, hey, we do teach Gentiles. So it's a good thing to be led by common sense and the Holy Spirit in that. However, this is what I'll say lastly, out the blue. So Israel, the state of Israel, their conversion process is documented in the Talmud in Yevamot 46 and 47, right? So what what they have done as a sect is they have said they pretty much originate from what we would call the Pharisees. Yeshua in Matthew 23 says the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So they're the ones who came, they're the ones who have the influence in the wherewithal, and they're the ones who enforced and came they're the ones who came up with the oral law and enforced it. So their sect, it gave way, it gave segue into what you call Orthodox Rabbinical Judaism. So Orthodox Rabbinical Judaism is what is the end all be all to the legislation of the state of Israel right now. So what's going on is they are saying they're the sect that determines what every other sect is to be Jew. And it pretty much is saying, if you want to come into the land, if you want to make Aliyah, if you want us to consider you Jewish, considering our ways, and how should I say this? If you want to be over here in the land, you have to do this our way. And that's what, to me, Paul was up against when he in talking in Galatians. So what the Orthodox Rabbinical Judaism sect is doing is saying, hey, we have the legislation to govern in Israel today who is a
Hello?
Jew. And if you want to be considered a Jew, you have to convert the way we prescribed here in our process in the Talmud and Yevamot 46, 47. But they know they're not supposed to. They know they're not supposed to dictate what other sect of Judaism considers themselves to be Jews. That's all. That's what I wanted to say. I know I went on, but I'm sorry. I had
Okay.
to say it that
Yeah,
way.
thank you for sharing that. For those who've just joined us, welcome to the conversation. The link is in the box on the YouTube side. We're having a discussion, kind of looking at the controversy, and I kind of want to bring it kind of back to the controversy because it's happening again and again. And I understand that there's a certain sect of Jews who has, as you're saying, made themselves the ones who can determine who is or who is not. But as it relates to the controversy and the statement that, what the people who are now waking up should be doing, what came to my mind is that is this a response or is it a call? Right? The people who are waking up are responding to something that is already in action, something that is already happening. And oftentimes when you're responding to something, you're answering to whatever is already being said. And so some of the terminology, I think, comes from that space. Some of the way that the people are saying I am and you are not. Ron says he can't hear. It comes from responding to what has already been said. Let me know your thoughts on that, because the people are coming hard um, over the years, because there has been a time, if you look at the early times, to say, hey, I want to do this. I am a such and such Black Jew. And the conversation is, you're not. And so I think the coming to the graduation where the people are now, not saying that it could not use some revision, but where the people are now, they are unapologetically saying who they are, because for so long people have been misdefining them and misclassifying them. Let me know your thoughts on that. And Ron, the it's up, so let me. Wait, hold on. I don't hear it as well. Wait a minute, 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
That's allowed to be hidden in the conversation.
I would like to address that if I could.
Wait, pause. Can we pause for a second, because I can't hear. Hold on. The graduation where the people are now, not saying. Yeah, let me know if I could be heard. Yeah, I can be heard now. Not sure what happened there for a second, but I can be heard
Yeah, I
now.
can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to say in regard to the conversation that's being had, because people are pushing back. People are just waking up. People are there's already the game is already in play. Right? You know what I'm saying? And here are the people coming to say, "Can I play too?" And they're like, "Nah, get out of here. You ain't got no, you know what I mean? You don't belong over here." And so now they're asserting themselves like, "Yeah, I do belong over here, and this is who I am." And that's kind of, to me, the conversation that's being had. Um, it's not a long history in the sense of the way Beta Israel had, or the Lemba had, or the Igbo had. It's a different kind of conversation, and I think it's taken on a different spirit because of the experience of those who are here in the West. Let me know your thoughts on that. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
The numbers are dropping because they think the thing went down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's strength in that. I think though I think where the power could come into that, I, to me, it is that they need. So we look at like the tribes, like the Limba, and like we said, like the Igbo and Beta Israel. We can see that those tribes, like you can tell, those just the original tribes. Like they've been doing that. You can't really get around it. I think though the issue is that we attach ourselves more so to like more so the written word and not as much so to like the culture. And I think that's where kind of the disadvantage comes in at. Is I think that because they able to say that we've been holding written documents, but when you look at, to me, the written documents is based on the people who was living it. And I think if we talking about people here, even though you can say that, I mean, we don't have necessarily a writ, like it hasn't went generation to generation like the Limba and them. I think you can see that connection here with, with amongst it's black people that resonates with. And I think if it does, I think they got just as much claim, uh, to me, and really more. But I think I think in the discussion though, it's just, I think how we do the claim is where we can separate ourselves. And I think that's where the discussion gets a little on
A little
edge, because
fuzzy.
yeah, because
It gets a little, yeah.
yeah, because I
It
mean,
gets fuzzy. It gets fuzzy. And then
right,
that comes from the
right,
way it was taught. I mean, there's definitely room for growth and elevation, because essentially in the beginning, the way in which it was taught, it was really taught off of a belief type of vibration. You know what I mean? And then as you continue to grow and you continue to learn, that has to grow as well. You have to have some type of substance beyond just believing. And even if you're, and here's the next thing, I think, even if you're not, right, even if you're not, the value of keeping Torah is still applicable. You know what I'm saying? There's some people, and I'm not saying, yeah, that people are not, I'm saying beyond this is who I am, the value of doing this thing, even if this is not who I am, bloodline wise, I'm going to get the benefit of it. And I think that the identity, a lot of people in this day and time hang on so much to their identity that they don't get the value of keeping Torah, of applying these laws, statutes, and judgments, these principles, right? So you're not seeing it manifest. There's a lot of people who they say that says they're a Jew there, but they are not. What is the benefit of saying that you're something and you're not seeing anything from it? Nothing is coming from it other than contention, strife, arguing, and all of these things. That's just another layer of it. But I think in this space, just saying you are is what is the offense. Because I believe Kanye said the same thing, that Ashanti is saying that the people should say, if I'm not mistaken. He said the same thing on the Jink Trams. How could I be if I am? And they didn't get it at first. And he's like, well, how can I be if I am? I think the brother Kyrie was alluding to the same thing. And yet it's going over a lot of people's heads that because you're saying someone is not, then that is what makes this so egregious. And then we need to have that conversation, because what part of it is making you upset? When a child comes to you and they're upset, you're like, okay, what part of this is upsetting you? And I think that's the real conversation to be had. What part of this is making you upset? Where in this 3-hour documentary did the person say, you're going to the pits? You know what I mean? Where in it did they say, like, help me to help you? You know what I mean? I've heard people say some egregious things, but help me to help you. Like, where in it should I be offended? Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they said that. Did anybody come across any of those parts yet?
I
Or
did.
you did? All right, let me know the part.
Okay, so this is what I'll say, and again, I wish, like you and a lot of people, that that the people who are saying there's certain parts of the documentary that are anti-Semitic, I wish they would point it out.
Facts.
I could point out one thing. This is
Okay.
one thing. It may be other stuff, but and I want this. This is no shot at my people. This is for the benefit of us as a people
Yeah,
to
we need to
get
know. Like,
better,
we need to know. We need
right?
time markers and
Okay,
everything. Let us know.
so
Yeah.
there is said to be a direct quote from Hitler in a book called The Nazis. So if that part is in the documentary where it's stating directly that Hitler said this quote, when you go to the book, it does not say that Hitler directly said the quote. The line is in there, right? It talks about what the China, the Asians, these people are. I can't remember the direct quote, but he said it's on page 132, and Ron Dalton Jr. he says that Hitler is the one directly saying it. However, when you go directly to that source, Hitler is not the one directly saying it. That's attributed as a falsehood. And anytime you say Hitler said something, it triggers people to say, hey, you know what? My grandfather or great grandmother was a part of this atrocious event. And Hitler, that's a trigger for people. So it's a falsehood if you say
So
this
then
person quoted something and he didn't.
he would need to put a retraction to say that somebody misquoted someone and it wasn't Hitler, it was such and such. That's a retraction. That's not like whole you anti-Semite. You feel me?
Well, it is an anti-Semitic. Excuse me. It is an anti-Semitic definition according to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. You guys can go to that website. They have the definition of
I know they made the definition up and read. This is what I said at the top, but I don't think you
True.
came in at the top. I said
Okay.
that at the beginning of the conversation that the person who has the power to define is the one who's in control. And you can move the pieces along the board as long as you're the one who's calling the shots. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so
we could come up with our own. We could come up with our own
exactly.
and use this stuff. We could call it the International Arab Slave Trade
Right.
Remembrance Alliance, and we can use the same definition and the same
Right.
examples, and it to change it to Black Jew or
Yeah, be like, I'm offended.
Yeah.
So this is where I say that it kind of gets a little sticky in this part of the conversation because you made up the definition and now you're the only one who gets to be offended. I think the brother in his in one of the interviews, when the interviewer was like, "Are you going to apologize? Are you going to apologize? Are you going to apologize?" I'm like, where are we going with this? If he shared it, okay, and you people don't like the fact that he shared it, and you're calling him to task for everything that's in the book or everything that's in the documentary, then it has to be the same across the board. And if it is not the same across the board, then we have to say, well, what is going on here? And I think that, to me, that's the conversation that's going on. If you can call everyone else out their name who has experienced great atrocities, even up until this day, and nobody's being pulled, everybody's skipping along happily, okay? And then you say something or you share something, and that causes you to be deplatformed and fired. You're like, wait a minute, he didn't do like Kanye. Like Kanye went out there and he showed his natural behind. Okay. Right. Kanye was like, and even when they was like, yo, yay, stop, he wouldn't stop. So he's totally different. He showed his natural behind. This brother said, I found this documentary interesting. And then a swarm of bees attacks him. It's like, wait a minute.
But even before that though, he never said nothing.
He didn't say.
He just, we don't, like, when he posted it, we don't know if he was posting it because he liked it, he believed it, or
We
if
don't
he
know.
thought it was all fake.
Right.
Like,
We
we
have no
didn't know
idea.
nothing until you guys brought it up. Like, and you know what I mean? People probably didn't even click on that link
Yeah,
until they
facts.
kept
Until you brought
putting
it up.
energy into it. Yeah.
Correct. We don't know. Like you said, he didn't say yay or nay. We don't know where he stood on it. So the right thing would to be, okay, you posted it. This is curious. Enlighten us. But to just jump out and be like, it's been known to be an anti, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That even made me stop. And I don't even into basketball politics. I was like, wait, what's going on here?
Right. But hey, Sister Amona, I got a
Yeah.
cut. Out the
I,
blue, it was nice chopping it up. Thank you for allowing me to
Definitely.
say the words. But I'll
I,
definitely get back with y'all, and I'm gonna continue to listen while I get ready to be up out.
okay. All right. Thanks for coming.
For
All
sure, sure.
good.
So
Yep.
we're gonna. There's more customer reviews, but I'm gonna see what Ron Dalton is saying, because at this point, he seems to be under fire. This thing is small. Hold on, let me make this bigger. For making this documentary, and oftentimes, these people who are saying what they're saying, bring him on, talk to him, see where he was going with it, why he did it, X, Y, and Z. That would be fair and just. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's an interesting world we live in. So let me where's
They're
this?
not
Oh.
gonna bring anybody on with any information. I can tell you that much right now. That ain't gonna never happen. It's
Okay.
gonna be the worst person you could think of. That's who they're gonna
Right.
put the
Like,
camera
where did they dig that person from? Like, out the bush in the back. Like, who's this brother? We don't know him. Okay, Ron Dalton official statement, Hebrews to Negroes. He says, this was 2 days ago. I vehemently deny any allegation made by Rolling Stone, the ADL, and the media that the Holocaust never happened, and that my books and movies make that claim. I respectfully request that everyone take the time to watch my films and read my books. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You will discover that this claim is false, and that my films do not promote terrorism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, or other hateful ideologies. What I would say is the tone of I have heard harsher tones, right? One of the comments was, oh, his tone, because it's very um non-combative, let me say. The tone in which the narrator is narrating the film so far. It says, I reject and condemn any forms of prejudice or hatred towards any person, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, lineage, ancestry, or sex. Let me find out he got a lawyer. This joint sound like the legal aid wrote this joint. As well as violence, racism, bullying, discrimination, black Jew phobia, and the misuse of the term anti-Semitism, quote unquote. The quote African diaspora, end quote, that was sent to the Americas and the Caribbean via the transatlantic slave trade are, quote, ethnically, end quote, the Israelites of the Bible from the lineage of Shem. Therefore, myself or anyone today who is a descendant of Shem's 5 sons cannot be, quote, anti-Semitic, quote, end quote, as Shemitic. And I think that's the play on words, because Semitic doesn't have an age, but okay. As Shemitic, I am against any form of anti-Semitism or anti-Shemitism in America or worldwide. Racist scapegoating and non-conforming, as well as unfair tactics that hold communities of color responsible for societal problems, must stop. Kyrie Irving shouldn't receive backlash on a film I created. This is yet another example of a system that disregards and minimalizes the lives of people of color and shows how far from an equitable society we are. It is our collective duty to create society where everyone has the same opportunities, irrespective of their race, religion, ethnicity, or sex. Freedom of speech and freedom of expression should not be seen as infringement, quote unquote, but unfortunately, based on what we have seen lately in the news, this is a sad reality in America. We definitely have more work to do. Right? There's no more freedom of speech, because he can't share something and not say anything about what he shared. It goes on to say, I'm dedicated to collaborating with all groups to make it possible for people from all backgrounds to watch the documentary Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. Just as one might watch the 1977 Roots TV miniseries. I've watched that one a million times, but let's continue. Which is shown annually every February during Black History Month. The mass media relies on promoting exclusivity, stoking fear, and assisting blame to those that go against their narratives. Everyone should be free to approach their past without worrying that they will be singled out, vilified, and bullied. That's a fact. I implore everyone to take the time to read my books, watch my movie documentaries, then fact check everything. So that's what I said. You got to fact check everything so that we all can have a full understanding of the true history of the Black people in the diaspora, which is now being told from a different perspective, quote unquote. Using the study of history, theology, geology, cardiology, biology, craniology, odontology, genetics, linguistics, archaeology, anthropology, and more. Merciful, but I provide the evidence of to substantiate that the information in my visual and literal work is indeed factual. Hopefully, after all this is done, we can begin to forge a nation founded on our complete history. I pray that we are able to continue to bring people together of all backgrounds to embrace historical events and facts that are detrimental to the progression of our society as a whole. That was well written, Ron Dalton. Okay? He invited you to the table. He invited you to have a conversation. He stated his point. He told you to fact check him. If you find something in this thing that you don't agree with, that you think that is anti-Semitic or Shemitic leaning, then let's have that conversation. And he invited you to a conversation. What did you think about the what do you call it here? The the press release, brother? I don't know where he went, but okay. So essentially, that's what's going on there. I like to kind of go behind the scenes and see what all the noise is about, and it looks like that's what all the noise was about. The noise was about this man here posting some contraband, I suppose. He wasn't supposed to post it. He wasn't supposed to say anything about it. He wasn't supposed to bring any light to it. But in actuality, the pushback is what got everybody talking. It has the video being downloaded and re-uploaded. It's over here on Amazon. People are in their feelings. Let me read a few more reviews. Somebody named T. Sue says, the movie was free to me as a promotional. So glad I didn't pay. I sat through the first 15 minutes. What I would say is that they front loaded the movie with commercials. I didn't understand that. So in that part, I would have to agree. The first, I'm like, what happened? It doesn't start till like about 20 minutes in. Waited for the real movie to start. It never did. Just a bunch of inspirational quotes. That's not true. If you're a researcher, you can take a lot of information from what he said and go do your own research. And because I think the way that many people come to this information, because it's not wholly handed to those who are seeking for it, we have to get it piece here and piece there and do our own research. So for people who want the whole thing given to them whole, it doesn't necessarily go like that. He said, the person says inspirational to the director of the film, but meaningless to me. And they said, per God, read the Bible. The Bible is God's word to his people. If we consider ourselves chosen, we need to start acting like that. Again, yeah. Okay. Now, the complaint is, someone please explain Hebrew DNA by Travis Johnson. Wish I had read the comment section before reviewing this. My issue with this movie are as follows. It costs $11.99 for a lecture. So you didn't have to buy it, but let's continue. It goes on to say, too long. I mean, 3 hours to say nothing. He said a lot. I'm halfway through and he said an entire lot. If you, what were you looking for, honey? If it's nothing, then what's all of this hubbub about? Lastly, I had a problem with the DNA evidence spoken of. I mean, do Jews actually have their own DNA? Found that hard to believe. The mix of linguistics, DNA, attaching Hebrews to everything. So Travis Johnson, but who are you? First of all, he's working within the construct that was already created. And I'm not defending him, but I'm saying if melanated people are not in the back somewhere taking swabs of people's cheeks and taking it to the lab to do DNA, they're using the information that the people who are in power have created and availed to the public. So I'm confused. Y'all let me know. I'm confused at what people are mad about. Breathe, right? I'm breathing. Somebody else says, it's horrible. Don't bother. So it's trying to dissuade the people from even taking a look at it. And for those who just joined us, I'm reading Amazon reviews. I don't know what this is. It's like a really bad Blair Witch something. Sorry. And this is what people usually do. These are logical fallacies, not to address what's on the table. I'm going to attack the person ad hominems and things like that. Sorry, I really tried to be open-minded, but it's so bad, poorly written and researched, just horrible. then name to us something about it that was poorly written and researched. What part of the research didn't you like? The only reason it got 1 star is the same reason I would have 1 penny as a tip. Okay, Julie, and you're well researched. We see. The documentary, sorry. The documentary was trash. Do not waste your money and time. Big waste of time. There is no primary or secondary sources. This is the one that I saw that I was like, huh? Delvion, did you see all of those sources? What are you talking about? As someone who likes watching a lot of documentaries, there were plenty of information here for you to go check on your own. They're all over the place with no detail. The first 20 minutes was just promotion for another documentary. That part is true. If you want to find the truth, do your own research and read. Let me get 2 more here, and then I'm a boogie, because they say Hurricane Nicole is supposed to be on her way to the down south. So I got a Skippy. Let me see here. A wild goose chase, says Keenan. This documentary, above all else, perverts scripture. I noticed that a lot of them are not saying that it's anti-Semitic. All the people who are complaining about price so far. They're complaining about misquoting scripture. Sorry. They're complaining about it being too long. It's not written well. But I don't see the anti-Semitic trope that's being peddled in the media. It says, this documentary, above all else, perverts scripture and makes an idol of skin color and culture. Bruh. That's why I asked the question earlier. Is this a response? Who first made it an issue? He uses loose linguistic and, quote, historical, end quote, writings to prove a point without really providing proof. Pretty much take it on face value. If somebody provided proof, how could you say they didn't provide proof? You can say you didn't like the proof they provided, but if you don't pull up their proof and have your own proof to disprove their proof, why are we having a conversation, Keenan? Somebody says, interesting information, but seems like the production people are a bit full of themselves. Really? The person says, just watch 10 minutes and it's horrible, horrible, horrible. Homemade, very amateur quality and information. Again, you're talking about the budget that the person did not have. You're talking they did the best that they could. You talk about the information, but you don't have any counter information. I'm confused at what you're confused about. So my point being, everyone, again, learn for yourself, see for yourself. I'm still reading here. Hold on. They want back their $11.99. All right. To be fair, let me jump over here to some of these 5-star reviews or 4-star reviews. Let me be fair right now. I just read all the bad reviews. Hold up. Okay, y'all, I'm not about to read no very, very long review right now. Okay, somebody says, Trinity Gardner says, I don't quite understand why Kyrie Irving had to pay $500,000 and get dropped from Nike and get suspended for 5 games in the NBA. This movie is packed with DNA evidence and testimony. I don't get it. Neither did the movie incite violence or hate. If what the author is saying is false, then prove it. Instead, white, Jewish America decided to withdraw from a man's bank account just for sharing a link. Some proof. I always thought that I was a Gentile. Always. I even considered converting to become a Messianic Jew. But I don't have to do that. I'm his prized possession. I don't have to be grafted in. I was born in. Then they say they love Jay. You see what happened? You guys boosted it up, and now you have people waking up because you were making noise. Let me see here.
Not only that, though, I think the last guy who even mentioned DNA, like the DNA argument comes from them when they first started trying to bring in the limba in there.
Okay, right. That's what I was saying. You brought it up. Why did you bring it up if you didn't want me to use it? They brought it up they brought it up, and now you mad that you like you wasn't supposed to use it like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on now, we gotta make it make sense. We gotta make it make sense. Let me see some other things here. Somebody else says, confirmed many doubts I've had about where I come from. See what they went ahead and messed around and did, Rolling Stone? And can't wait to get DNA results. I have to watch the film again. Now you got people watching it 2 times. I did not hear any anti-Jewish words. What did I miss? Producer traces American Black and Native Indian tribes of South America and Pacific to African roots and tribes of Israel. What's the problem? What is the harm in the truth? His research was very well done and backed up with white archaeologists and research as well as European and Asian explorers. Not to mention a very similar documentary was on PBS. Why are European Jews so upset? I sincerely don't understand. 42 people thought that was the ant's nest. Now you got people questioning, like, this is curious. Someone else says, and I'll read a few more, not an anti-Semitic documentary. I appeal to all young European Jewish people, somebody says. Please understand that the religion y'all practice is one that y'all, what is this? I think they were supposed to say adopted. As a Gentile from the original Black Asiatic Semitic people. The problem that Jewish people have is that your ancestors have made you believe that you are the true and only real Jews. This was the conversation that Ashanti was bringing up. To escape this sin, you must become a lover of truth. The people of the earth see you running from truth and using anti-Semitic as your personal weapon, and that's a problem. The information is out there. Young Jewish people, please break the curse of your ancestors. This is what the person says. And 95 people thought that was helpful. They said the movie was long but informative. So I say all this to say that you guys are bringing attention to it, and it is waking more and more people up to what you are saying is not the truth, which is going to eventually force a discussion. So one more, and it says ESPN brought me here. I don't. ESPN and the other sports talking heads brought me here. I wouldn't have known about this if ESPN and Nike wouldn't have made a big deal. Honestly, I fell asleep and didn't get to watch it, so check it out for yourself. Anywho, with that said, let me know your thoughts in the box below. Thank you guys for coming in. There's things that could be corrected. There's things that, you can bring up and the person could put on record to say, you know what, I was wrong. That's what's called a retraction. I was wrong in this area. This is where I corrected it. But to jump out the window and say and smear somebody and put labels on people without having discussions and conversations, it's not really just. It's not really just. But with that said, anybody else have anything to say before I go ahead and wrap it up? And brother, I want to thank you for coming through and sticking with us and sharing your thoughts. I'm going to drop the link one more time.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, I definitely appreciate you having me on. This was definitely, I think, a great build. I think earlier, I think you mentioned, I was going to touch on earlier, you mentioned, the benefits of us being Israel spiritually. I think even when we look at it, even politically, though, I think when we look at the people who call themselves Jews now, all of them don't necessarily believe in that, but they are willing to, to at least come under that banner to accept the benefits from it.
Right. So there's a lot of benefits, and I think this conversation needs to be had more. I think the aversion to people, and I've said this in different spaces, I'll leave with this. I think it's more to it than melanated people in the West saying they're Hebrews or they're Jews or everybody's not Judah, but that's not a conversation for another day. If you begin to adhere to Torah, right? And if you step away from the things that spiritually, there's spiritual laws that govern creation. And if you step away from things that spiritually allow people to rule over you, therein lies the problem. It's the same conversation in Balak and Balaam. Come and curse these people. I cannot curse them. You have to get them to sin against their power. And I think, to me, that's the whole of this conversation. If you get them to sin, then rightfully, spiritually, you can do what it is that you're doing to them. But if they come out of that space and they're not sinning against their power. If they're in basically universal alignment, that means that now you're spiritually protected. Then the exploits can no longer work. The violation can no longer work. The suppression can no longer work. The usury can no longer work. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like,
Right.
what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like somebody coming and saying, yo, don't sign. Do you see all of this? Blah, 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 blah. And the person who's trying to get you to sign the paperwork, like, hey man, what you doing? You messing up the house.
Right.
There's a lot of systems that exist on the exploitation of the people. And the people don't realize it's more than just saying, it's more than saying Israel. That's not, to me, it's bigger than that. It's about spiritual protection. Because from there, everything else flows. Financial blessings, physical blessings, spiritual blessings. All of that flows from understanding that you are in alignment with creation.
Right. Right.
And there's a lot of people who's running around saying that Israel is still wicked, so you're not getting the benefits anyway. You know what I mean? So why are we having this conversation? To me, it's like, we got to level up. You know what I mean?
No, I can definitely see that.
There's some feedback on it, but that's another conversation, I suppose, for another day. And yeah, it's bigger. We just keep an eye out. On what's going on and what's going on with this brother, because like Nick Cannon, he stuck his head out and he got scared real quick. It came for him.
Yeah.
What? He was like, "Ooh!" He ran.
I thought though I kind of, when I read his statement, I thought that he did a little kind of a slick move by doing the Jewish thing, because I think that's one of the first things that you kind of learn when you kind of coming in and being an Israelite is that, yeah, the people that call themselves, they'll never call themselves Jews, they call themselves Jewish.
Right.
And so if you really kind of read his, even the apology that they forced him to put out on his IG, he just kept saying Jewish, and I'm sorry for, whatever that was offensive to Jewish history and the Jewish community.
Right.
And I thought, to me, for him to already believe he is a Jew, I think he was kind of being facetious a little bit.
I might have to go back and look at that. I do know they had him sitting down with the rabbi. They had him in there. His turban was all cocked to the side, like, oh man, what did I do? You know what I mean? The interview got snatched down with him and Professor Griff. And like I said, sometimes some of the people who
you talking about Nick Cannon?
Yeah, I'm talking about
yeah.
I'm talking about sometimes they stick their head out quicker than they're ready to, because this is not for the weak. It's not, and it's difficult when you already climbed the mountain, and now you have to look at all the things potentially that you have to give up. You know what I mean? And it takes humility. You have to be prepared. Like Kanye kind of feels like he's ready. I still don't think he's ready. Just watching the way he's moving, you know what I mean? But some people, sometimes they even have savior complexes, and no one can save the people, really. So that's not gonna work either. You know what I mean? As a collective, the people have to understand why they need to do what they do. Because there's a lot of people who would, if they didn't think they were Israel, they wouldn't see value in doing what they need to do. And that in itself is a problem, because it's supposed to go out for all the people in the earth to see the value of being in alignment with Torah. You know what I mean? So that's just my thoughts on that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now, peoples. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This was a different kind of conversation. I know sometimes on the channel, I'll be doing some other type of things. But every now and then, I see a news story that comes up that I have to be like, whoa. And as I'm talking about, whoa, hurricane or tropical storm Nicole is on their way in. So I'm about to boogie everybody. Everybody stay safe. May the Most High continue to be with us. Everybody have a blessed day. Tell your loved ones you love them. Check on those you haven't heard from in a while. And live good. You know what I mean? Live good. All right.